Why vegetarian? And I think it's because he was thinking at the time that, or most of the places this is implemented in, they can't afford, Heifer International, buy somebody a rabbit, you feel good, right, at Christmas time. They can't afford it there. I'm not, and then of course, I'm not a big fan of growing vegetarian. Of course, it always pisses off all the vegetarians in the room when you start to get into a conversation like this, but actually I was a raw vegan when we bought the land. I was experimenting with that diet, and I'm out there trying to think of what can grow, what is the easiest stuff to grow out here, and animal products are by far easier to grow than vegetables and fruit. And I was very surprised by that. And again, the different places I've gone to visit, Idaho or the Ozarks or California or even down in Costa Rica, and I was very surprised down there, 20-year-old vegetarians saying, it's actually easier to grow animal products. Grow some goats. Also animals, and I often get a lot of flack, but animals provide a lot of other stuff. And one of the great things is for example, rabbits. We'll get more into rabbits. I'm a big fan of using rabbits. They're very quiet. You can grow a lot of meat. They come in, family-sized packets that you can butcher right there. You don't need to. Yes, I know that's so harsh, isn't it? The DVD, we have a section on butchering, and I do the butchering of the rabbit in the DVD. And I have so many friends, and they say, Marjory, I love your DVD. I haven't watched the butchering section. Then other people go, Marjory, I love that butchering section. Two categories of people. But you get skins, and you get bones, and you get lots of products from them. But the number one thing that you get from the animals is you get, the air is what, for those of you like into chemistry, 70% nitrogen. Nitrogen is the big thing that our plants want, that your plants want. And when we breathe in, and we exhale, there's all that nitrogen in our body that goes, and our feces and our urine gets a lot of that nitrogen that gets as a byproduct. And it's the same thing with animals. They come up, they really make really nice, fertile stuff, I think, faster than if you were just to compost the vegetable matter. So, choose species that don't compete with human needs. People say, if we wouldn't eat meat, then, and that's true, because they're feeding all the commercial meat that you're eating, they're feeding them grains, they're feeding cows grains. Cows aren't supposed to eat grains, right? So they're feeding them stuff that competes with human needs.
Cows are supposed to eat grass.
There you go. So if you're feeding them grass, then you're not competing with human needs. It's perfectly fine to eat beef. Here I am in my garden, and as I was pointing out, this is an 8-cage rabbit hutch. And you don't really need a lot. And the most important thing underneath that rabbit hutch is a compost pile. And the rabbits are living in this 1/2 inch by 1 inch. The pellets just fall right through, and cleaning is fairly easy. It's very minimal, and that's the most important reason for having the animals, is because of that. Now, how important is fertility? And this is going to give you, like, this figure right here should really show you how important fertility is. Also, people ask me, and they say, Marjory, I got a black thumb. And I said, me too, I did. Everything died. And really the big difference between a great gardener and your ho-hum gardener is how much fertility and how good is their soil that they're growing in. It really is amazing. My stuff was dying, my broccoli looked sick, and the first little freeze, they'd all die. I'm like, broccoli's supposed to live through the cold. And my neighbor, I'm over visiting my neighbors, and he's, a 1/2 mile away, same soil, same everything, and his broccoli is just like growing, and it's huge. And I'm like, wow. And he's in 2 feet of, composted horse manure. And I'm like, wow. And now over the years, as I've built my soil up and my vegetables are like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, wow, that really makes a big difference. So anyway, Jevons has it right here. So in that 40-bed system that he was talking about, the dark ones are the actual beds where you'll be growing food that you're going to eat. These other beds, the 28 other beds, mostly 2/3 of your system is just to grow productivity for your garden. It's just to grow crops that you're going to cut down and compost and turn back into the garden. So these are mostly all for fertility. You can get, if you grow oats or something, you can collect some of the other, the rest. But most of it is all for fertility. An interesting sidetrack, and I'll say it here because we're in an Austin group. A while ago, there was a group very concerned about Austin, and they said, let's take the population of Austin and the land that Austin has, and we know this stuff from Jevons, let's determine if everybody, grew some stuff in their backyard, could Austin be self-sustaining in terms of food? Do we have enough? And they assumed everybody could have like 600 square feet in their backyard, and then we'd rip up the city parks and stuff like that.
Are you taking questions during, or do you want to wait?
Let me wait just a little bit, because, and the basic analysis of that is, and if you want, I'll email you a copy of it. It's also in the documents section on the CD that comes with the DVD. We have a DVD that I turned most of this material into, and then with it is a CD that has a whole bunch of PDF documents that I've found interesting and useful. And that document is on there. It's analysis of Travis County, and basically, the population we have. And they said, let's assume people can't do the full 40 bed. Let's assume that all that we're going to need is this. We'll get the compost from somewhere else. And they found out, unfortunately, that we do not have enough land or compost or experience for Austin to be self-sustaining. So anyway, fertility is super important. Jevons talks about it, and he does it in really simple manner. He says, look, if this is a 50 square foot bed, you need, 3 buckets of compost. That's what you need every time you replant. And it's pretty straightforward. He tries to put it into terms that you can deal with. We can all get a 5-gallon bucket, right? So that way you know exactly how much it is. Remember before I was saying, well, there's a difference between commercial farming and homesteading? One of the differences is this tree right here. You say, what does she have in the middle of her bed? Those are trees that I plant in the middle of my garden. In the wintertime, they go dormant, all their leaves fall off, they actually die down to the root system, which is fine, because I don't want them there in the wintertime. And then in the summer, they leaf out, they produce a huge amount of organic matter, they fix nitrogen in the soil, and that's what those plants look like, probably in about June or July. They just grow like crazy. I cut them down. When they get to about 8 or 10 feet tall, I cut them down again to about 5 or 6 feet, let them grow back up, and I keep cutting it down. I use it to feed the rabbits. I also use it as a living to keep my garden nice and cool in the summertime, which is a huge deal, keeping stuff cool. So it's a great plant that we found that works real well. But having a tree in the middle of your bed, they can't do that in commercial farming because they got to get in there with the tractor all the time. But it's something that you can do because you're only going to be having, whatever, 1,000 square feet of bed space or 2,000 square feet of bed space that you're managing. This tree also fixes nitrogen. Its roots have a beneficial relationship with bacteria, and it actually helps the soil fertility just by growing there. In addition, of course, to its leaves being edible. They're edible. The pods are also edible by humans, and I've collected a bunch of seed, and I've been meaning, they say you can pop it like popcorn. I've been meaning to do that. I got to do that. I promise you I'll get back to you on that. But it is edible, so we'll go with that. Did you have a question? I could go with that.
Have you ever done much foraging for wild edibles?
Very, very much so, yeah. And hopefully we'll get into that some more. But yeah, foraging is a very important
That's my interest.
Yeah.
What tree is that?
Which one?
What tree are you growing?
This is Lucena. It's Lucena lucifalia.
But I don't know what that is.
Yeah, nobody really does. Yeah, I'll be glad to, actually, if you just look that up on the internet, you'll be astonished at how much research that has gone into this tree because they use this. One of the best sources for survival, you got to live in hard times. One of the best places to go find people that have really done this stuff is the Christian missionary organizations that go into third world countries like the people up in Waco, the World Hunger Relief. Their mission is, Christ said, feed a man a fish, and you haven't done anything. Teach a man to fish, and you fed him for life. And their whole philosophy is to go into developing countries. I think that's not the politically correct word anymore, not developing countries. Anyway, they go in there and they teach people basically how to go back to their own indigenous agriculture. And this tree is a critical component in all over India and Africa. And this tree has been researched to the nth degree in all the different varieties. It's astonishing that we don't really use it here. It's not going to be good too much north of Dallas, I would say, because it needs a little bit of a longer term to grow. But all throughout the Southwest and South, it's a fantastic tree.
So when you have that growing in your bed, doesn't it shade out anything else you want to grow there?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what the optimal spacing for it is. This particular bunch are spaced about